Barack Obama has pledged to get Biden back in office in 2024. But what have we learned about Barack Obama since he left office himself? Is he the best president America had, or one of the worst? Hello there, you 6.5 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining us on our voyage to truth and freedom, where we assess information openly in order that we might come to conclusions together to help us better face life open-mindedly, but discerningly. Turn on the notification bell and subscribe right now. It really helps us. Now, I was one of those people that was very excited by the election of Barack Obama, seeing it as an advancement of American civilization. It was beautiful to see his family stand triumphantly before a newly united America under the banner of hope and change. We now know that Barack Obama, during his administration, bailed out the banks in the way that any other president would have done. But what has Barack Obama been doing since he left office? Is he the best asset the Biden administration could have, offering a third term of Barack Obama, as was famously said and touted? Or is he, as has been demonstrated since leaving office, just exactly the kind of career politician that we should fear? One who ultimately used the office to benefit financially? And even if he is someone that's easy to talk to, easy to listen to, easy to look at, cool in interviews and seemingly good fun to be around, is he an emblem of the kind of institutional corruption that needs to be changed? Is he the reason that people are losing faith not only in the Democrat Party, but democracy more broadly? Let's hear how the mainstream media reports on this.
Welcome back. Former President Barack Obama is gearing up for a bruising election season, and he says he's committing to help in any way he can to secure President Biden another term in office.
Given the obvious deficiencies of President Joe Biden, his communication skills, increasingly the business dealings of his family, his unwillingness to debate other presidential candidates, Barack Obama could be seen as a tremendous asset. I know lots of people that are spiritually Democrat, shall we say, that see Barack Obama as the apotheosis of that party's achievements. We've spoken many times about the deficiencies of Obama while in office, but what exactly is Barack Obama doing since leaving office that means that we should perhaps be a little more discerning about his achievements and his role, and whether or not he is an asset to Joe Biden's 2024 campaign? In 2021, millions of Americans worried about being evicted from their homes, catching the Delta variant, or whether a COVID resurgence might keep schools closed in the fall. Former President Barack Obama was apparently loftily unbothered by any of these plebeian concerns. The distinguished memoirist was too busy planning a ginormous 60th birthday party for himself on his vast and vulgar Martha's Vineyard estate, a sprawling 6,892-foot tumour on a beautifully spare coastal landscape, which the Obamas bought in 2019 for $11.75 million. The 475 guests were to include George Clooney and Oprah Winfrey. Even people close to him argued for weeks that as the White House was urging caution given the recent COVID resurgence, the optics of this shindig were not good. The former president's birthday bash showed at a minimum a cavalier insensitivity to the fears and needs of his neighbours, as well as a general indifference to the political fortunes of his fellow Democrats and the sufferings of Americans. But the kerfuffle shouldn't surprise close observers of Obama's ex-presidency, which has been strikingly bereft of public spiritedness. Obama was instrumental in shutting down Bernie Sanders' bid for the presidency. When Sanders was leading in the primaries, Obama worked to organise the other rival candidates to drop out and back Biden, making it impossible for Sanders to win. He then persuaded the Democratic Socialist senator to drop out of the race. To retain optimism around Barack Obama at this point requires significant will. Since leaving office, he's behaved in a way that's almost entirely predictable, and he's proven himself to be an establishment figure at a time when what the American public plainly yearns for is anti-establishment radicalism. If Obama's popularity is being leveraged in order to support Joe Biden as Trump continues to remain in ascendancy, it's likely to fail. Even figures like Ron DeSantis are unable to gain traction in spite of their stance during COVID in Florida, for example, because they're seen as being too much like statesmen, too much like ordinary, identifiable, recognizable politicians, at a time when what people seem to have an appetite for are anti-establishment figures, whether that's RFK or Donald Trump or Cornel West or Marianne Williamson or Vivek Ramaswamy, doubling down on institutional establishment figures that bail out banks and drone Syria seems like a surprising way to try to galvanise support. Except, of course, if what the Democrat Party now truly represents are establishment and conservative values. What I mean by conservative is not what's traditionally meant, but the idea that you can preserve a base. Perhaps what the Democrat Party are interested in doing is galvanising their existing base to the degree that Trump is able to continue to maintain the interest and support of his base in spite of ongoing indictments. That's because I suppose Trump's base are about anti-establishment and Obama's base and Biden's base are about preserving the establishment, maintaining a metropolitan lifestyle and professional jobs in media or medicine or whatever. It seems now that the Democrat Party have accepted that what they are about is continuing to corral institutional and establishment interests in the face of rising populism. The attacks on Trump simply aren't working, so what has to now be resorted to is re-galvanizing a Democrat base that surely now are feeling the pinch of years and years of institutional inertia. If leaving those voters to be picked up by populists, and I don't use that word in a derogatory sense, like Donald Trump or RFK, a figure they're unlikely ever to get the opportunity to vote for, because a truly progressive Democrat Party would at this point be saying, get rid of Joe Biden, he can't handle this, he's too old, it's mental, the business stuff is confusing, get RFK in and let's just handle the fact there are a lot of people that have got concerns because of stuff he said publicly for a long time around vaccines and medications that in retrospect make him seem a little more discerning. It's probably be easier and better to get people on board with a candidate like him. He might be able to put up a fight against Trump. They'll never do that because the Democrat Party is a shell occupied only by the interests of the donor class, using as a distraction what are commonly referred to as woke politics, the idea that they are supportive of minority issues, which I frankly don't believe they care about either. It seems that the Democrat Party are the party of the establishment and the party of authority. So using Barack Obama in this way is not surprising. And it's also not surprising to learn that Barack Obama is exactly the kind of president that his record in office would suggest. A career politician that's looking to exploit his time in the White House economically, leaving office to do a bunch of Netflix deals, to buy real estate and to take highly paid speaking arrangements rather than, for example, setting up, I don't know, orphanages and traveling around the world helping people. I'm sure he does do stuff like that, but that doesn't seem to be what drives Barack Obama in life. Let me know if you agree. And let's not forget Obama's awful museum in Chicago. The three-memoir author is erecting a garish monument to himself on Jackson Park, which community activists argue will wreak havoc on a cherished green space and a fragile ecosystem, as well as upon legal scaffolding for the very idea of the public interest. In addition to his appalling vineyard manse, Obama is also planning to live in an additional ecological monstrosity in Hawaii, owned by close crony Marty Nesbitt, chair of the Obama Foundation Board and developed for the Obamas. ProPublica reported last year that the Obamas' planned beach house has a controversial seawall which protects the estate in storms, but is illegal because such structures disrupt the flow of the ocean and contribute to beach loss throughout the state. Elitism in Hawaii? I hardly think so. Not surprisingly, the sellers paid a substantial sum to the state to grant a loophole which will keep the seawall in place for another 55 years. In Hawaii, beaches are considered a public responsibility and extensive laws exist to protect them, but such easements to property owners are unfortunately common. Community members have been protesting the loss of the surrounding beach, demanding that Nesbitt take down the seawall. Instead, the state is allowing he and the Obamas to expand it. With Joe Biden making insensitive speeches comparing his own near fire to the very actual fires that have destroyed communities and thousands of lives, and Barack Obama turning up in Hawaii, erecting giant, monstrous, ecologically unsound, remember they care a lot about the environment, seawalls, no doubt there is so much cynicism and skepticism about American establishment politics. No wonder people are looking for radical alternatives. Instead of supporting these alternatives, they just double down on establishment figures, ignore and demonize those that are questioning the intentions of the Democrat Party and their business dealings and their lack of morals, even in the midst of an obvious and actual disaster that has to be ascribed to climate change, because if it were the fault of any individuals, you would have to make real institutional systemic change, and they're never going to do that. They're just going to keep telling you that you're wrong to think that that's the solution. Like most people with too much money, the Obamas own way too many homes for the health of the planet. In addition to the Hawaiian vineyard estates, they have an 8.1 million 9-bedroom mansion in the Kalorama neighborhood of Washington, D.C. All this real estate necessitates an unconscionable amount of flying, sometimes on Richard Branson's private jet, at a time when many middle-class Americans Americans and even corporations are cutting down on air travel because of its climate impact. Obama might be even less public spirited than any other modern ex-presidents. All of them are war criminals who faithfully served the capitalist class when in power, but Ronald Reagan at least had the decency to retreat from public life into a tasteful and sadly relatable senility. Jimmy Carter built houses for poor people and defended democracy in Venezuela. Granted, Bill Clinton's business and foundation dealings in Haiti were a travesty, but he has, like Obama, amassed an indecent amount of wealth since leaving office, but he has also, more than Obama, spent time on humanitarian causes like disaster relief. Ex-presidents would be nothing without the trust the public once placed in them by electing them to the presidency in the first place. After the presidency, all their earning power and cultural influence stems from the fact that people once voted for them. Obama has not only largely opted out of using his high profile to serve the public interest, but he's also chosen, insultingly, to flout it. It's long past time to end the cult of hero worship around this narcissistic plutocrat. The value of Obama in campaigning for Biden is based on what he symbolizes. But what does Barack Obama symbolize? Does he symbolize a period when the Democrat Party was better, more vital, more vibrant, with a fluent and fluid leader who was able to communicate openly and freely with people? Or does he just represent a trick of distraction where, under the guise of progress, institutional and establishment interests were able to continue? His time post-office seems to reveal that it's precisely this that's the problem. The Democrat Party are constitutionally incapable of competing with Trump's populism or even his rhetoric. Joe Biden's clumsy speeches and attempts to be relatable reveal that, and so do Barack Obama's interests subsequent to his time in the presidency. The Democrats are now the party of elites. I'm not claiming that the Republican Party are any better. I don't need to make that claim because I don't believe in systemic electoral democracy anymore. I believe in decentralization and radical systemic change. Every disaster appears to reveal the need for that, and every time a former statesman is trotted out, it reveals all the more the need for a change of the system that they are part of, rather than just new inflections on the same old story. Will Barack Obama improve Joe Biden's electability? Probably, because the people that care about Joe Biden and Barack Obama only care about keeping things the same. These figures now represent elite establishment interests, not social progression, not fairness, not equality, but business as usual in America. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments below? If you like this video, have a look at either of these. Remember, turn on the notification bell and subscribe. But more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.